Okay, I'd like to call this session of the Richard Exempted Village School District Board of Education meeting back in their regular session. And the very first thing on our agenda is approving the agenda as presented. So it is recommended the Board of Education approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Dubois?
Yes.
Ms. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Wooten?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes. All right, first up, recognition and awards.
Mr. Leonard, would you join me at the podium? I get to channel my best Mr. Stewart this evening. So it is with pleasure that I have Mr. Lindner up here today with me. I will say that you were one of the first people that I met when I came here in the spring. Talked to me all about the work you do in the makerspace, and I have enjoyed watching you, especially last week with our students flying the drones. We even got an opportunity to talk about that a little bit. So this is a little different tonight. So the reason Mr. Stewart wanted to nominate Mr. Lindner is for the leading line is because this is the third nomination since he's been here, Mr. Stewart, where the recipient has saved someone's life. So this is Alan's 22nd year in education and his 12th at New Richmond. And Mr. Stewart believes it would be best for you to tell your truly amazing story.
Okay, well, hey, I appreciate Mr. Stewart bringing light to it in a sense, humbling and nothing that I ever really wanted. It's not why you do something like I did, but I told him, I said I'd be more than happy to accept the award because it shows the importance of paying attention with your trainings with CPR and the Heimlich maneuver, and that's something that as a teacher and as a coach you would do year after year after year after year, and you take it seriously. So you take it seriously because you never know when that's going to happen, even though you think it's not going to happen. So I told him, I said I'd be more than happy, and hopefully the word gets out that this is why you do it. It could happen to anybody, and you can save somebody's life. But I was I work at the Cincinnati Reds. I work for the Cincinnati Reds for a side job, and Friday I worked a Friday night game, and I was standing at my little station where sell drinks and peanuts and whatnot, and a little girl walked by, and she was probably 5 years old, and she had one of those little bottle caps in her mouth from a water bottle, and I thought to myself, come on, Mom, Dad, don't let her chew on that. She's going to choke. And they walked off, and then the next night, ironically, I'm down just a little bit further than what I was, and it was at the very beginning of the game, so it was very chaotic. There's a lot of people around, and someone came rushing to me, and she said, "You have to save her. She's choking." And I looked over, and it was a different little girl, of course, but I look over, and I guess it was the mom, and she's waving her arms, and she says, "She's choking on a bottle cap." Well, in my mind, this was the night before, I'd already thought about it, so I guess it was, in my mind, I thought, the thought never really left. So in a sense, I guess I was already prepared. And I looked around, and with all the people, no paramedics, and the little girl, she was probably about 10, and she was on the ground with her hands out, and I thought to myself, well, nobody else, I'm not going to let the little girl die. So I walked over there, and there was a guy who had hit her on the back twice, but that's not how you do it, and that's not what the training is. So I brushed him aside, and I told the little girl to be okay, and I picked her up, and then all the training goes back through your mind where you're, what do you do? And then I thought to myself, well, if it were Brock, I don't know why my youngest son Brock, if you were that age, they teach you have to get it hard enough where you could possibly break the ribs, but it is what it is. And I hit her once, and then I did it again, and sure enough, it popped out. And and then I just sat her up, and I just walked back, probably went back and sold peanuts. I don't know. Everybody knows my personality. I probably did walk back and say peanuts, But it was kind of amazing because looking back, it was almost like at the end of the movie on It's a Wonderful Life when George Bailey comes in and everyone's clapping. It was amazing because everyone came up and they were giving me high fives and patting me on the back and taking my picture and all this stuff. I had a doctor come up to me and he goes, "That was amazing. I'm a doctor and I don't even know how to do that." Lo and behold, he sent an email later on to the brass and he said that he was an anesthesiologist, and so that made me fly. But it was really nice. All the suits came around and said thanks and everything. And then the next game I worked, there was a break. They were out of town, I think in St. Louis or something, and all the suits showed up and gave me a jersey with my name on the back and everything.
Nice.
So it was really cool. The owners thanked me. So it was a big deal. And honestly, really, I didn't do it for any of that. You just did it.
Yeah.
You just do it. But I certainly know that no paramedics were in sight. I don't know how many more seconds she had left, but there wasn't much time remaining. And then if you think if she would have passed out, then you had a whole other bunch of worries. So yeah, it was great. So yeah, just getting the word out and saying, hey, take the training seriously. And I do want to add one more thing too, that it wasn't a foreign thought in my mind from the get-go because my wife had performed the Heimlich to a student in a classroom a couple of years earlier. So the thought was already, okay, you can kind of do this. And so it wasn't something where like, okay, well, it's just, because I'd already seen it happen one other time, somebody close. So that was a whole other thing. They showed up with flowers thanking her at the house and everything. So yeah, the training's important for all the teachers, all the coaches. You never know when you're going to use it.
Yeah. It's good.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So here's your award, the Beth Webster Lee Liner Award, presented this 20th day of October, 2025. And we'd love to take a picture with you. We'd love to have you come and get a picture with us.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
You too.
This is always a
You
good
gotta get up
job.
front.
Okay. I almost wore that red jersey they gave me. But I didn't.
3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
And guess what? You get them out now.
Oh, okay.
You can choose to stay as long as you want.
That's okay. I'll go.
Congratulations.
Hey, thanks again, everybody. It means a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job.
Now I know why in Norway you cannot disconnect this from it's permanent.
Thanks.
Okay. Superintendent report.
So, what is this the Google sheet or the PDF?
That's the PDF. That was what was uploaded on Dropbox.
Not a problem. We'll just scroll down for me. Want to take a natural break, you'll know what's up. So we have to look behind you this evening because the TV in front is.
Yeah, I was working on that.
So I'm excited to give you our October 2025 Board of Education report. We did our first ever Employees of the Month this last month in September. We had the opportunity to recognize Brooke Carr, certified, and Josh Crawford, classified. A few words about Brooke from her peers. Remember, all these nominations come from peers. So a few words was Brooke's complete dedication to her profession and her ability to reach special needs students is unparalleled. Her mentorship and friendship have left a mark on the NREVSD Special Education Department, and her willingness to help others learn and grow is unparalleled. For Mr. Crawford, he worked tirelessly to prepare the high school for a fresh start to the school year. He has expressed care and concern for the teachers and their needs and taken care of our classrooms with great care. He ensures that everything is shiny, clean, and well maintained. He is kind, courteous, and he has compassion for our school and our community. So congratulations to both of them. We do bring them a framed certificate with actual words that their peers write, as well as a balloon and one of our mugs filled with some candy. So we are very excited to go around, and employee recognition is a huge part of finding, keeping, retaining, and growing our staff. We also had a very busy month, and I know that with lots with lots of events around the district. It's really important to highlight our partners, but more importantly, we are more than the things that we do inside of our classroom. As you can see here in the top left, we opened for the community, opened our school-based health center that generates about $35,000 in revenue for the district through rental. We want to thank Ty Powers and Rick Mahan and the Fred Callaway Post 6770 for their support of installing the POW-MIA chair at the stadium. We had a wonderful military recognition night. Thank you to our student council representatives, our teachers. That would be Terry Flam, Mary Ann Dalton, Jonathan Laus, and Shelby Cockerham. They were very instrumental in organizing the parade and all of the events throughout the week. We had our first choral concert, Autumn Leaves. First annual bus pull for the New Richmond Alumni Association, which netted about $1,500. And then I had the opportunity to attend the celebration of the class of 1975 at the New Richmond Alumni Association benefit down at the Landing. And while they were honoring the class of 1975, there were lots and lots of classes represented. I really enjoyed the event. It was light on the program and heavy on connections, which for people it's always interesting to hear their stories and why they love their time and are proud of being a New Richmond graduate. We have been striving to be better communicators. We had our first quarterly newsletter go out to our staff, where each department chair here, the director, shared an update on their department and their work, as well as a special edition highlighting many of the events you just saw. We did our first cold weather test. I know it seems foreign, but we want to make sure as we move to rooms and to a new communication platform that all of our families externally and internally get our closures and emergency messages. We also did a newsletter out to our community, and obviously the cold weather test. In terms of employee engagement, through the exit interview process, it was mentioned that our paraprofessionals felt left out of training opportunities. They had a great training. They made sure to let me know that they were leery of coming, but an hour in, they were engaged and enjoyed the trainers and look forward to other opportunities. Tomorrow morning, the culture survey, which was given in September and October, the first part will go out. Staff are given access to the raw data, and there are themes for the open-ended comments that is scheduled to go out tomorrow morning. All month, I concluded today, we've had voluntary staff meetings around the earned income tax facts. Staff internally have questions. We've been able to do the same presentation for all of them and answer their questions. And then Garth has launched an internal staff communication survey just to learn about how we can be better communicators and the type of communication that our staff wants. Congratulations to our girls tennis. They are the SBAAC champions. I really want to shout out a parent, Matt Olendick, for surprising the girls at one of the in between, I think, the first and second quarter of our last game. If you see the big yellow sign there, he had that made for them and surprised them. It will be hung on the fence at the tennis courts, and I've asked Garth to cover that when they get that done to honor the girls. I would love for the girls to come and be honored next month at our November 10th board meeting. I think it's a great achievement, and I'd like Athletic Director Newberry to do that for us. And then finally, it is National School Bus Safety Week. So this week we proudly recognize our school bus drivers, our aides, our mechanics, and transportation leadership to ensure that our students arrive safely to and from school, often before the sun rises and long after dismissal. Their professionalism, patience, and attention to safety set the tone for our students day in and day out and reflect their care that defines what it means to be in New Richmond schools. And then we have some upcoming events. We will be at Monroe Elementary tomorrow night with the Earned Income Tax Forum. We will have our athletic committee meeting Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Not sponsored by the district. There is a candidate forum at New Richmond High School. That should be 7 o'clock. We'll get that changed. Hosted by the League of Women Voters. The doors open at 6:30. So you cannot arrive before 6:30. We will do an EIT forum for our village, for those folks that live here in the village and close to the high school, next Monday. And then just so the public is aware, we will not have a work session next month. We will have one board meeting on November 10th, and that is due to the Ohio School Board Association's annual meeting. So that is a change. Executive session at 5, board meeting at 6. It does not follow our normal rhythm of Mondays. So we will be here November 10th, and that is the conclusion of my report.
Okay, all right, next on the agenda is public participation, and the board would like to welcome Michelle Johnson for some comments.
Thank you so much. Good evening, members of the board, superintendent, fellow community members. My name is Michelle Johnson, and I'm the president of New Richmond Pride, a local organization dedicated to and supporting the LGBT youth and families here in our region. I'm here tonight because our young people, and particularly our LGBT youth and racially marginalized students, need advocates in this room. Over the past few months, we've heard increasing reports of bullying within our schools. They're not isolated incidents. Students have been sharing stories of being targeted with slurs, of being pushed in hallways, and of being taunted for who they are or what they look like. This particularly affects LGBT students and has them feeling unsafe, and students of color are also being made to feel unsafe as outsiders in their own classrooms. Instead of meaningful ways to address these issues, we know that last year a teacher was suspended for including high-quality literature in her classroom, books that reflect the lives and experiences of LGBT students. And let's be clear, representation is not political. It is essential, and these stories give students and families the opportunity to see themselves not as problems to be fixed, but as people of worth and who deserve dignity. Meanwhile, this district is asking all of our community members, including LGBTQ people and those who love them, to support a new tax measure to better fund our schools. And while we understand the importance of public education and the needs of our students, we must also ask, how can we justify taxing a community that the district actively is refusing to acknowledge? If our schools will not even allow a child to see someone like themselves or a family member in a book, how can we believe that the same schools are working to ensure that a child is successful and safe at school? We are not asking for special treatment. We are asking for dignity, fairness, and safety for every student. And tonight I urge the board to take the following actions. Convene a representative committee of community members, including educators, parents, and students, to develop a transparent and inclusive policy for book approval. The goal must be to ensure that all students can find themselves in the stories that they have available to read. Allow for an opt-out process for families who, for personal reasons, do not wish their children to read certain materials. This helps to respect individual family values without erasing the identities of other students. Affirm your commitment to safe and inclusive schools by speaking out clearly and publicly against bullying in all of its forms, especially when it targets students of color, people who have gender identity or sexual orientation. You have the power to create a district where every child feels seen, valued, and protected, and that is the goal that we all are looking for. But the future will not happen by accident. It will require courageous leadership. It will require listening to those whose voices are too often ignored, and it will require a shift from fear to compassion, from silence to action. We stand by ready to work with you, but not against you. But we will not stay silent while our children are treated as invisible. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Policy is the next item. Want to kick it off there?
Yes, I would love to. So as you can see here, there is a rather extensive list of first reading of policies to approve. We have a great partner agency in Neola, and our representative has shared that this has been one of the most complex and extensive lists of revisions that he has been a part of. So I would like to take a minute to maybe just share that while there are many policies this evening, most if not all, are requirements due to the federal government and changes in Title IX, as well as many are directly tied to House Bill 96, which is the state budget bill. So if you go back to June, that's when there was lots of legislating inside of the budget bill. While you'll hear a lot from local politicians about local control, many of these have very to little local control at all. We, by law, must align ourselves with federal and state requirements. So several of these are the same tonight in terms of the harassment policy, especially that they cover, there are 3 different types of classifications in a school district. There are administrative, there are certified, and there are classified. So some of these policies look exactly the same because they cover each one of those classifications. There is a lot of terminology around gender and sexual identity, and that has to do with some recent court rulings. The federal civil rights language did change earlier this year. The U.S. Department of Education issued new guidance following a court ruling and an executive order. The guidance said that when defining sex under federal law, and that's Title VII, the specific words sexual orientation and gender identity should no longer appear in the policy's definition because the previous guidance, including those terms, was overturned. So that you'll see a lot of these policies become very neutral to student or their, like their rights, THEIR. And then there is one policy in particular where it does talk about a crime reporting change, and that is the FBI's National Reporting System for School-Related Incidents changed the term fondling to criminal sexual contact. So fondling, it doesn't mean that fondling is going away. The definition changes to criminal sexual contact, and we have to match the official national standard. So you'll see lots of policies for first reading for approval, and then you'll see lots below it of policies for first reading of policies to rescind. Those are directly related to what those new policies. Second, the Office of Civil Rights that we used to have in Cleveland, Ohio, has been closed, and that is referenced in all of our policies. So we now have chosen any complaints, it's either Wyoming or Washington, D.C. We have chosen that if any complaints for civil rights, violations will be reported to the Washington branch of the Office of Civil Rights, Washington, D.C. That is the office, since the Cleveland office has been closed, that's the closest office. It doesn't mean that they're not taking complaints, but P.O. boxes, addresses, formal complaints that need to be mailed have to go to that specific office. So, the anti-harassment and discrimination were combined in a lot of these, making a more robust policy. But it does mean you rescind individual policies. So all of the policies are available to the public here. This is first reading. We give the public a month to look at them, the board a month to look at them, to make any comments, and then in 1 month from today at the November 10th meeting, we will approve them for second reading, and then they will be sent off to Neola, and our policy book will be updated. I know I said a lot, but I think the public should know sort of what's in here, and that we're not hiding behind a lot of numbers up on the screen.
I will offer, I appreciate to call out and the alignment that is required, especially in policy 2266, where the public is going to see us strike sexual orientation and gender identity. That is not something that we prompted. And I applaud the alignment with a very detailed definition of sexual harassment and bullying. So I'm disappointed that our guest walked out right as we could look at this policy, but I mean, it is much more thorough. And I welcome a very thorough policy to define both.
And then I just want to call out that, there's the policies to rescind, and most of them are directly matched to that first policy where you're combining those 14, 22, 31, 22, and 41, 22, where you're combining the sexual harassment and bullying and striking the two different ones to become one.
And we have a month to read them all again.
You do. Everyone.
Okay, human resource items.
Under A, we have some acceptance of resignations. I do want to do a call out to Tim Cook. Tim is retiring. Mr. Cook was hired in 1995, so I want to thank him for his 30 years of service to our district, our community, and our students. So he will be leaving us to formally retire at the end of the year. There are a couple employees on here that have to resign from their current role in order to accept a promotion. So that is why you'll see Robert Earl here and Samuel Lewis and see them again. So those are our resignations. Under classified employees, I would like to recommend the following to be hired. Robert Earl, classified, he will become the head custodian at Richmond Middle School. Congratulations on his promotion. Samuel Lewis, classified head custodian, Monroe Elementary. Again, congratulations on his promotion. And then hiring Janet Pindell to replace an outgoing custodian at New Richmond High School. We are always in need of subs, so we are thankful for Dillard Meadows to be a classified custodian, and Lori Lenhart under food service. In supplemental contracts, there are 3 items that we have for you tonight. We'd like to recommend Nicole Mueller to be the student council advisor at the middle school. We also would like to have an additional site manager and gate worker, the same employee in 2 different areas, Mackenzie Berwinger. So those are the 3 changes on the supplementals this evening. And then finally, Andrew Tetrick, he's a graduate assistant on loan from our team doc, who's helping Mr. Newberry and getting some field experience, so we would like to have him approved as a volunteer this evening.
It is recommended the Board of Education approve items 8A through 8N.
Also move.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? We probably need to correct it to say 8E. Yeah, so let's revise the motion to say 8A through 8E instead of 8N. And then I assume
Also
move in second.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Any discussion?
Just for Tim Cook, he started when I graduated high school 30 years ago. It's a long time. You're old.
No comment.
I know. Appreciate his time here. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's hard to see. That's 2 out of that building that will be leaving us. Well, Jeff Durham is already retired now too. At the end of the year.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Dufault?
Yes.
Ms. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells? Yes. Mr. Wooten?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes. All right, treasury report.
Take the reins for a moment.
So I know this might be a little bit different than in the past, but in the interest of keeping things moving quickly and not revisiting too many items from the work session, I typically put together a little bit of a slide deck just to kind of go through the financial report at kind of a higher level, but those will also be included as attachments there. But I also kind of take this opportunity just to present some updates of what's going on in our office and some initiatives that we're making. Just to kind of keep you updated. So we're still back here. This month is a little bit shorter, but I will take you through that monthly report this first time just so everyone kind of is understanding of the format of that. And then I thought once we get through this, I'll kind of just give the forecast presentation as well, and then we can just go through the agenda items for approval. So this report is our fiscal year to date, so July 1 through September 30, just the activity of actuals plus remaining months projections. So we'll kind of go into that a little bit. So again, from that much more nice, colorful report that's a few pages, just to kind of take away some highlights. I always like to keep some bigger numbers in our scope here. So right now we're in an awkward moment because we're still comparing everything to our May forecast as our base scenario, as we like to say, which that will change after this evening. But compared to May, our expenses are tracking to just under 1%, 0.72% unfavorably, meaning higher than that forecasted amount in May. So under 1 point though, that's pretty on par with what the projections were at that point. So as far as that's concerned, that is a good place to be in at this point in the game. I also like to highlight just the expenditures for the month that we're reporting. So that was just over 2.6 million. And to revisit our May forecast total expenditures, that was 27,558,237. With our current projections and a few updates there, we're looking at 27,756,281. So again, within 1% there when we talk about expenditures there from what we thought would happen in May. And again, after this evening, that will change, and so everything will then be compared to October's forecasted numbers when we go on from that point. On the opposite side of the coin, the revenues are tracking to a 3.66 favorable variance, meaning higher than the May forecast. And I think the revenue projections were a little bit low as far as the personal property taxes and some real estate taxes as well. But with all the activity going on in that department, I can see where there'd be a little bit of uncertainty there. But again, looking at the monthly revenues for September, looking at just under 1.2 million. So again, not something we're going to be shocked to see where we're spending more than we're bringing in certain months, but when we have the months where property tax settlements hit, we will see surpluses in those months. And looking at our forecasted revenues back to May, again, as our focal point, it was forecasting 23,900,000. And again, with a little bit more investigation of what's going to be going on with our property taxes and a few other revenue streams, we are looking favorable there. Still under 25 million, unfortunately. But it is shaking out so a little bit better than what was previously forecasted in May. So that's kind of a couple of those pages boiled down to the big points there. And again, those will be what I'll be giving you on a monthly basis, just to show at the end of this month where we at compared to where we thought we would be. And I'll show you how we can kind of take new information and bake that into future months as well in just a moment. But again, big bottom line number, what was our ending cash for the month? So general fund, or the 001 fund, that balance as of the end of September 2026 was $9,726,687. So that's kind of the summation of the monthly report there, so July through September. And if at any point you have any questions, feel free to stop me. Just looking at some process updates here. So I established weekly Treasurer's Office staff meetings just to check in with the team, have a little bit of team building, and just see what supports they may need and assign tasks to be completed. So we're in the middle of our gap conversion and fiscal audit. So having that team available at my disposal has been really nice. Just kind of dividing and conquering, getting that accomplished quickly. Just with my transition being right in the middle of all of that business. So they've been very instrumental in that already. I have been working with accounts receivable to track specific revenue streams for future reporting. So I know that was one of the things the board had asked me to start facilitating. So as we look at facilities rentals, those will be some things that you can have drop of the hat notice as to what has gone in between athletics and other facilities. For the Cincinnati Children's rentals, Mr. Daniels did mention that. And that's something I want to track separately just so we can continue to monitor that. But the OFCC folks did reach out, and they're going to want quarterly revenue reports from those rentals as well. So it's kind of two birds with one stone there anyway. And then as we embark on these shared services contracts with Felicity, I see that being obviously another revenue stream that we want to be able to track separately versus other similar things. So there are ways to track those and bring those to light specifically so you're aware. And I know that's one of the wish list items you have for me, so I'll be delivering that as time goes on. I'm also going to be working to build more of a monthly investment revenue dashboard for you, just to kind of see how we're doing there, because I think that's a very important thing, just to see where that revenue is coming in for that as well. So that'll be something in the future that you'll see as part of this report. And then I just like to do a quick agenda items overview. So just going through it really quickly, and if you have any questions on any specifics when we get there, of course, feel free to stop me and ask. But we've got our prior meetings minutes, and one thing I noticed is we want to make sure that we are approving the work session meeting minutes at the next regular meeting, which is where we're at here. We did discuss those fund-to-fund transfers just to clean up some prior year grants to get those zeroed out and off the books. We also discussed updating appropriations, so that's on the agenda for this evening. And that's twofold. One, to make our general fund expenses really reflect our current forecasted expenses, so we're not basically running two sets of numbers here, plus what was carried over from last year, and also increasing that in other funds to spend down the idle cash. We discussed that some of those other funds that have just been kind of sitting unspent, they weren't appropriated in September, therefore we couldn't spend them. But that's part of that initiative as well, so we can charge those off and save the general fund some money, as we discussed at the work session. We do have some donations on the agenda this evening. We also have, I believe I put this in the board report, but they call these confirming purchase orders. I hadn't heard that language, so I had to talk to my team and see what that is. But those have to go on the agenda because those are over $3,000. I can go into then and now in more detail if you'd like. And then we have the various contracts that we saw at the work session as well, plus the Claremont County Board of Developmental Disability, and then of course the forecast. So just to kind of go through that quickly, any questions on any of those items? We can reserve them when we get there. All right, perfect. And while I have the mic here, so to speak, just to kind of go through this for those who may be watching. So again, these will be uploaded and part of the monthly package, if you will, but I will be reverting to just the slide decks publicly as we go forward. But this kind of shows things the year to date through the current month compared to last year. So our revenues are higher than they were at this same point in time. Our expenditures are actually lower, so it's kind of good in both directions, but of course our cash is lower. And again, this is going to give us those comparisons to the past forecast, and again, cash balance comparisons, actuals and estimated projections. Lots of fun light reading for those at home. And then it kind of drills into the monthly detail, which again, that's more so what I'll be focusing on, and the actuals to the forecast projections. So those are there, available to anyone who has any questions. And the last thing I like to include on here is, they call this the spending plan monthly, and I'm going to blow this up just a little bit bigger. So what this really does at the very detailed level will give us actuals of what happened on basically every line item from the forecast through the months that have already been closed. So we can see exactly what we spent on payroll, what went out for retirement, etc. And kind of just seeing what's going on, what sticks out. And then we have our projections for the future months there. So in October, you'll see some red here. I'm actually going to make a corrective posting to a property tax receipt. So no, we're not losing $1 million. It's just getting recorded elsewhere. But this is really the power of these tools. If, again, we have new knowledge after the forecast is filed that can affect it either way, we can put that in here and get an immediate feedback of how that's going to shake out financially. So, you know, I always make the hypothetical if we had a student come in requiring special services that weren't part of the forecast, like a one-on-one aid or something that they have to have, we could get immediate feedback of how that's going to affect the end of the year versus. So very powerful, and again, just kind of shows us projections and allows us to have the current knowledge we have baked in instead of just twice a year check-ins. So that's the kind of long and short of that report that'll be available. And while we're at it, we'll just dive right into the forecast here. And so as we saw the other day, just for those of you at home this may be new, this is required to be filed twice a year by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce to provide expenditure, revenue, and cash balance projections. These were historically filed initially in November and then an update in May, respectively. That's now been changed to October and February for fiscal 26. And then that first filing will be switched to August next year, which will certainly be interesting. So the new norm after this year will be August, February. And again, this is only including expense, revenue, and cash balance projections for the general fund only, nothing else. So I always like to kind of take a bird's eye view of revenues, expenses, and cash. So we'll start there on the revenue side, just showing where our money comes from. We're about 50% locally funded, and that comes from the funds we receive through property taxes, whether it be real property or public utility. And the next largest big chunk for us comes from state sources, primarily our state funding through the school foundation payments, and those are received twice per month. We also receive state reimbursements and property tax credits, so the owner occupancy credits, homestead rollback credits, but we also receive a very large amount of money for the electric plant deregulation payments that is included in that particular line item, which we'll see in just a moment. And then we have a little sliver of other revenue that doesn't quite fit in those big categories, but for our situation here, you can tell we are very heavily locally funded, and most districts during the state would fit that relatively closely. So to look at it in the forecast perspective, the actual document here, as we've discussed in our community forums, most of our revenues generated from property taxes will remain flat, but we are projecting revenues from two particular line items to continuously drop over the life of the forecast. And that's that unrestricted grants and aid and the reimbursements for property tax credits. So included in that unrestricted grants and aid, part of that is just simply how much we're getting for the education of our students, but the other thing that is baked in there is part of the payments the state started giving the district for the devaluation of the power plant as well. So we've got two things at play here. So they're dropping off a big chunk of that from fiscal 25 to 26 and peeling that back ever so slightly throughout the life of the forecast. And then the next biggest chunk you'll notice is in the reimbursements for property tax credits, the deregulation piece. If you follow the arrows, we're just paring back our revenue pretty vigorously throughout the life of the forecast. So the bottom line is we are seeing a continuous declination of revenue there. So, and as we discussed the other day, those reimbursements we're getting both for devaluation and deregulation, that's estimated to be completely off our books by the end of fiscal 36. That's obviously beyond the life of this forecast, but just following the trends there, that's what we're expecting to see. Moving on to what's going out. Again, relatively similar pie chart here, and it's no surprise. Our salaries, benefits, the cost to pay our people to do the important work they do. That's the biggest expense of any school district, and ours is approximately 74%. I did do some research. The fiscal 24 total across the state was actually 78.5% as a state average, so we are doing slightly better in that, and I expect to see that do even better due to the reduction in staff we saw from that last year into this year as well. So that's a victory lap we can take there. We're outperforming a little bit. And something I always tell people to keep in mind, even with that said, as wages for our current and returning people increase year over year, the board's responsibility for retirement and Medicare also increases with that. Those are non-negotiables. You're 14% for retirement and 1.45% for Medicare. And of course, we're known for good benefits. Employer contributions for healthcare, etc., are also included here as well. And again, those can fluctuate just based on individuals' enrollment options year over year. And then the second largest comes from purchase services. I jokingly almost say this is payroll just in disguise. We're paying other people to do services for us that may be not on our books. And the lion's share for us really is our contracts with both Hamilton and Claremont County ESC. But our utilities and any other services by outside entities, such like HVAC management, things like that, that we can't do, is included there. And again, all other expenses are a pretty small sliver of that pie there. So that's that bird's eye view there. And just looking at it in the forecast perspective, again, we are looking good compared to last year as far as personnel and employee benefits from the buyout that we discussed in the EIT presentations. And that is going to result in significant savings across the life of the forecast. And as we've said, that's about a $1 million expense to roughly save $7 or $8 million there through those expenses that would have remained. And the only other big change that we're going to recommend moving forward is just reducing our transfers out to our permanent improvement fund, as I believe that balance is pretty padded in terms of what we need to do for our capital projects. So with that said, as we've seen already, we are looking to run just under a $3 million deficit for this year, and we do see deficits in each year of the forecast here. And one important thing I like to message here is this is a snapshot in time with the knowledge that we know now. Okay, so things can and certainly will change between now and when we update this in February. But without a crystal ball, we don't know yet. But with as much information we have right now, that is how things are looking. So maintaining the status quo, that's essentially how our cash balance will shake out. It's still ending in the black as far as positive cash, but not deficit in 26 and 27. But fiscal 28 is really where we need to watch out. So with all of that said, we have identified many efficiencies to reduce expenses. That projected decline of revenues that we saw, simply it just can't keep pace with expenses increasing year over year for the things that we still need to keep the doors open. So what does that mean? We really need new revenue to be generated, but I truly believe we'll still need to continue to look for further efficiencies and reduce expenses in order to avoid future deficits and get that balance to the budget there, and at least be in positive cash by fiscal 28 and hopefully subsequent years. And it goes without saying, but I wanted to just highlight again the big significant difference it does make with not bringing back 10 certified staff. So our red line up top and the cash balance numbers corresponding at the bottom shows how things are going to be projected with those reductions in mind. And if you compare that to blue, keeping all 10 of those people, not making any changes from last year to this year, you can just see the significant difference it makes on the bottom line, almost being broke next year alone. So that's a very significant move that the district made, and that should be applauded. So that is kind of where we stand to kind of bake 5 years of projections into 10 to 12 minutes there. But thank you, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So when we submit this report, what will be your response from the state?
So with us having a negative cash balance projected in fiscal year 28, with it being in 3 years, they're likely going to come knocking again and asking us for some other plan, whether that be a reduction, but also how can we generate new revenue. And obviously with the tax ballot measure being on November, I think that's obviously something we can obviously message to them there. But as me and Mr. Daniels have been talking, we're continuously looking at other ways to do more with less, essentially, and other ways to reduce expenses without detrimentally changing what it means to be a student.
So that's called fiscal precaution?
Yeah, so you have watch, caution, and emergency. I think we'd be looking at emergency there, obviously, with negative cash in 28. So I'll expect a call here probably early November, and we'll see how that goes from there. So you'll be the first to know besides me.
Brent, just because I'm sure there's interest in the district right now, given these forecasts. Prior forecasts showed us at a deficit in 28, but showed us at a little bit less of a deficit. Can you explain why we now sit at, I believe it's 2.3 versus 1.3 in prior forecasts?
Yeah, so meaning like the ending cash, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah, so I think a lot of what was going on was in May, the forecasted expenses for purchase services were a little bit lower than how they actually shook out. I think it was 4.1 million forecasted in May, but the district ended at just over 5. So me kind of coming in when I did, looking at that and seeing, hey, I don't see us all of a sudden dropping almost $1 million on that particular line item for expenses, and I did a 5-year history of everything that has been going out the door in that particular line item there. So carrying that assumption forward, plus again the payout for the severance buyout, I don't believe was included in May yet either, because I don't believe the final number of those taking that buyout was included. So that's the important part of forecasting, is knowing what intel and what knowledge was exactly included in those assumptions the day it was filed. So again, we could approve this tonight, and hypothetically have 10 kids come tomorrow and say all of them need a one-on-one aid, no ifs, ands, or buts, and we have to pay that and prepare for it. So that is the important part to keep in mind when forecasting. It's essentially as good as the day that you file it, and things can and will change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brett, I do have a question about 4.3, other objects. Why is it so, for fiscal year 2025, it's $585,000, where
The year
Yeah,
prior
that
was
stuck out to me as
131,
well, so
157.
I was doing a little bit of digging there, and it looked like there was some like corrective entry there. I think it was to save something that was initially gonna be charged to a grant. So other objects, it could be anything between fees, dues, property tax collection fees are included in that as well. So with that being kind of an outlier, like I said, I did a 5-year history of every line item on the revenue and expense side, and I didn't see anything other than that one outlier last fiscal year that indicates to me that we're gonna have 500K going out for other objects. So that one was a little bit interesting, but as far as regular recurring themes I could see there, I feel a lot more comfortable about how that's being forecasted. But again, when we look at purchase services, I just wasn't really comfortable with saying we're gonna be spending $900,000 less than the previous year on one side. So I'd say between what you saw in May and what you're seeing now, there's a lot of putting it in a blender and a different result comes out, but a lot of the bottom lines, by some twist of fate, seem to indicate sort of the same numbers there.
And we're on hold, so we've not paid due back any money, have we?
Not that I'm aware of.
Don't we owe Duke some money, Tim? Doesn't, like grant, don't we grant?
Well, I don't think that's ever been,
Is that ever?
there's a possibility that that could.
Right.
I think they were just going to reduce our payments by the amount we may have owed.
So they paid less on their bill to cover that difference.
That's just, that number sticks out, that's almost a $500,000 right there.
Yeah, that's the one that really stuck out to me as well too, and there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it going there, honestly. I think other than trying to just make some corrective entries. A lot of times when there's grants involved, they'll typically make those corrections at the end of the fiscal year, and that's when I saw that. Other than that, that's pretty much all I've got, so thank you for suffering with me. I'm gonna pass this back over to you. Thank you.
Okay, so it is recommended the Board of Education approve items 9A through item 9J.
So moved.
Second.
Let Brett catch up.
Yeah, sorry.
Fall, story.
Thank you.
Any more conversation or questions or discussion on any of the items?
Yeah, hold on for 1 second, let's see the date on that. I was just looking at the in and out, then and now, and
Oh,
those,
yeah.
those aggravate me.
As they do me. But again, I think especially one for Huddle, or the Agile Sports, I believe that's probably one of the recurring bills. So a lot of things that are billed annually, they may not hit in the same month, and I would not, with this being a transition of athletic director, that does not surprise me at all. So a lot of times, like I make this joke too, sometimes you'll get a quote lined up with a vendor, and literally the minute you hang up the phone, they send you an invoice over email, and you don't even have time to do things on our end. So I'm like, look, we need to wait, first of all, until services are rendered, and no, I'm not paying you in advance for anything, unless it's something massive like a construction thing or something like that. So a lot of these things are just due to timing, but to be fully transparent, there are instances of people not following purchase procedures, and those are treated with a different light there. So as I get more established, and I think people need some education on that as well, if that becomes a problem, and those, especially being over 3,000, if they are over 3,000, they have to come to you to be approved. I can approve them underneath that, but if I come across those situations where I can't ascertain, like, yeah, you did not follow the procedures, those would be times where they might get to write you a little note and let you know what's going on as to why that wasn't followed. But I would almost 100% that the Agile Sports for Huddle, especially, that's just an annual.
Paul, wasn't Huddle on the black mark list as far as being approved as a, approved
It does
software?
not meet the requirement of Senate Bill 29.
Correct.
What we have done, and I want to thank Dr. Hollingsworth, because it's one of many, we have blocked it on our servers.
Gotcha.
And we have told parents, we know that it's a recruiting tool.
Right.
We've let them know that if they want to create an account, they need to do it with their personal. But also we use Huddle, I do believe, to live stream.
It is true.
So there are two So what you'll see maybe as we get into winter season, our basketball games, the huddle system is how you broadcast games. And I do think you can monetize the huddle system as well and sell individual games. So I think there's several, not sure what part of it is, but your direct question, yes, it is not approved. We have informed coaches and families. You use your personal email on your personal time so that you get access to tapes to market yourself for further playing time.
I only asked just because of the delay in the invoice on this one. Might have been held up just because of the investigation, possibly.
Possibly, and then also some bills have not been going to our new athletic director. They have been going to an old email address, even though the old email address says, please forward to. It happens to Mr. Floyd all the time.
Sure.
Like, so, no excuses. I think the transition for this one.
Sure.
So is this coming out of athletics or is this coming out of the general fund?
I have to look historically, but I would say Huddle likely has been historically paid out of athletics. I can look right now, actually.
It's alright.
But like I said, there are plenty of things that's literally timing, or like another big one is like in June, leading into next fiscal year, will be like, what is your purchase order for July 1? So it's on next fiscal year's books, and sometimes they'll still send you stuff dated June. I'm like, no, like that's not wanting this, don't send it. So there are timing things, but I've also been part of the not so great where the procedures aren't followed, and that has to go a different direction as well. So when things go in that direction, you will be made aware of it. So,
But I do like Mr. Daniels' comment in regards to selling a subscription to a family to help offset the cost of that. So I know that can be done because I'm looking to do it.
And I believe Huddle, if you do streaming and live streaming, you're supposed to be getting a certain percentage of streaming revenue from that as well. I'm sure it's pretty far down there, but I'll take any penny we can get. Did you just say the same
I was
thing?
gonna say.
We need everything we can get. I mean, but we're not trying to squeeze people. I just think the system itself has upkeep. It serves a purpose for students, for recruiting, but also serves a purpose for families that may not live here and or have mobility issues, and they can come and
Grandparents.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, all right.
Yeah, it's a no. It's a no. But I think you should look at that.
Yeah, I'll also look to and see if this is a multi-year, part of a multi-year contract, and if and when that expires, because that's another moving target as well. So.
I'll shut up now.
Fine, sure.
Sure. All right.
Take it all in.
Roll call.
Mr. Dufaul.
Yes.
Ms. Story.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Luton.
Yes.
Mr. Zimmer. Yes.
All right. Communications report.
So I am going to play the most recent EIT video that we posted on Facebook on Friday, I believe. There were some changes in this since the last time you all saw it. I would also like to replay it again just in case some of the community did see it. I believe right now the plan is to make 2 more of these. One, I don't think we've decided on the theme yet, at least I haven't heard it. The other one, hopefully to come out this week, is about the 5-year forecast, how to read it, and what it looks like. So this is the one that went out this past Friday the 17th. There's no sound, is there?
No.
That's what I thought. That's interesting.
Do we need to turn it up?
Is the TV down? Is it the room? I can't see.
Yeah,
No,
it's up.
it's up.
It's up.
Yeah. I don't want to
Looks like it is over there.
blow with the speakers up.
I don't understand why this didn't work. I just tested it 5 seconds ago.
I think from what I unplugged and plugged you back in. Probably.
We'll play it on my computer, which should be a little bit quieter, but you'll at least be able to hear it, which is better than the TV right now.
In 2020, the new Richmond community passed a levy to help stabilize the Richmond schools. But even with those new funds, we continue to make cuts to live within our means. Following the closure of the Beck-Jordan plant in 2014, NREVSD began working to balance the budget in an uncharted reality. In the end, buildings were consolidated and boundary lines redrawn, turning 3 elementary schools into 2. In 2020, more cuts came as we reduced 8 county aides, 2 teachers, and chose not to fill 2 paraprofessional positions directly tied to student sports. We've also reduced custodial costs and raised pay to participate fees, now $125 for the middle school and $175 for high school. Over time, we've matched staffing to enrollment declines and reduced contracts that once supported instruction, technology, and learning innovation. At the close of the 2024-2025 school year, those reductions, 11 positions in total, saved the district $7 million over 7 years. Initial estimates showed just a $4 million savings, but careful management of staff allowed the district to leave 10 of the vacancies unfilled, nearly doubling the initial estimate. Every decision we've made has stretched your dollars further and kept our classrooms open. But by 2028, our cash reserves will be gone. Without new revenue, we'll be forced to continue cutting $2 million every year, eliminating programs, staff, and opportunities our students deserve. Our teachers already earn less than the regional average, and our administrative spending, just 5.9% of the district's total budget, is the lowest in Clermont County, far below the state average. We are lean, efficient, and dedicated to fairness for our staff. Funds from the proposed 1.25% earned income tax will be used to preserve quality education, attract and retain excellent staff, and protect the future of New Richmond schools. Please visit www.nrschools.org to learn more, ask questions, and join us at one of our upcoming community forums. Thank you.
Well done, well done.
Thank you.
Round 2 is solid.
Thanks. I believe last I saw this was viewed over 1,000 times on Facebook alone. And it keeps notifying me that our reach is getting larger and larger with notifications. I think the line is that your reach has increased by 1,200%. So we're getting them out there. They're watching them. They're asking questions, as you all well know. And again, I think that we have 2 more coming, one this week and one next week. I had something else to say, but I can't remember what it was. So if you have any questions for me, I'll answer it.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
That was all done on the first take, right?
Technically that had to be re-recorded because we changed it after the first one. But so total there were 3. The first one took me 2 because I laughed halfway through it accidentally, and then that one was just that one just went straight through. So
Well done.
thank you.
Anything else, Garth?
That was it.
Okay.
So I added just a placeholder for board discussion. Just is there any open dialogue we want to engage in regarding any key district matters that require thoughtful consideration or any collective input? There's been a lot of information tonight. Policy, 5-year forecast. We have a lot going on in the district, and I think in times when you're asking the community for money, I think what we do on a day-to-day basis sometimes gets lost, and that's why I want to continue to have us focus on the work, because the work is what's going to guide us. Pass or fail, the children are coming, and the work continues. So just an open spot if there's any dialogue, questions for Mr. Floyd or myself, Dr. Hollingsworth, Mr. Shanklin. Don't have to do anything, but just an open spot for dialogue.
I've got one thought that the signs at the end of the village, both ends, we have our state champions are recognized. I don't know who's responsible for those. Is it school or what? But we've got 2 names on those, and Grant, his name should be up there too. Grant is a state champion 2 times. He should be recognized. I don't know. The sign's been up there a long time. I don't know if the state did it, or village did it, if we did it. I don't know. Yeah. I was thinking about that every time I drive by there. I think, Grant should be on that. So
We are meeting.
Just a thought.
We are meeting with Mrs. Bailey, the village administrator, this week. It's a good opportunity to ask: is that a district sign or is that a village sign? And if it's a district sign, whoever owns it, we can definitely do the work to get it updated. Because he'll have to have 2 dates behind his name.
2 years.
2 years. So we will ask about those. She's here on Friday, and that's what we can do.
I would say too, like the recognition, like don't hesitate to bring like Brooke and them to the meetings here, where where we can recognize. them.
absolutely.
The more people we can recognize, and students and staff, whoever, I think it's great for the community to hear all the great things that's happening.
I will definitely, I do think our student voice and student recognition, like, I think this is a great opportunity.
Yes.
Because Garth can snip those 2 or 3 minutes, and the students are the focus of our work. They really are. They're why we're here. So we can definitely, we will have some October folks. They will be, we'll be visiting them in the coming next week, I believe, and we will invite them to come here and read their nomination again. Be happy to do that.
And then the only thing that when Mrs. Johnson, Michelle came and spoke was just, can we just stay safe, speak up? What are we seeing there? And just kind of give us some, see if we're seeing anything there on the main piece.
We can bring maybe a first quarter report on overall trends. So we won't look at individual, but we can look at where our areas of where we're not doing so well and look at some data by percentage. That's an easy pull out of Public School Works. Garth can help me make it look better than their reports, but we could definitely highlight the areas where we're doing well and where we need to make some improvements. I do know that those trends are part of the building data meetings. Data meetings aren't just academic. We look at PBIS, positive behavior intervention supports. They directly affect instruction, so we should be talking about positively recognizing students and working on behavior recalibration. I did want to mention, and I know that most folks don't stay, but House Bill 8 is really the vehicle for parents to opt out. We did do our due diligence with a notice. The Parents' Bill of Rights is very prescriptive for a school district. We did a nice notification, as well as being proactive about all of the other initiatives that were thrown inside of the budget bill. I think we reminded folks about Senate Bill 29 again, and we've tried to be very proactive about the SAVE Act and Aaron's Law, so we will do that annual notice. Just those are the things that the state requires of us, not of private schools, not of parochial schools, or even community schools, but we have to do those things. And I've often argued to our legislatures, if it's good enough for my kids here in New Richmond, it's good enough for everybody's kids. But we do have our parent opt out of House Bill 8, and I just, I don't think it's not to be, pushed back, but that is a change that most people are not aware of our position, and we have to support a parent's right to choose. But I also think the board has been very involved in making sure curricular choices align with they align and meet the needs of the entire community. So the parent isn't forced to make a choice to opt out. I think that's a cornerstone of the work that is done every time Dr. Hollingsworth brings you something. And I know there are board members who take the books home, even textbooks, and go through them and make sure that, and we do have a controversial topics board policy. So, and we even added some lending library notices that went home at our middle school this year. We are definitely being proactive. It is something that we heard in our culture survey from our staff. Stop being reactive, be proactive. So they are guiding our work. So yeah, I do think we can do a Public School Works report out, and we can show the community our trends.
I think it's important to note there that we have probably said behind closed doors quite often it's nice to have fresh eyes as the treasurer, fresh eyes with the superintendent. So just to say publicly, if there have been issues in any situation that have been lifted up and not addressed, this is the time to do that again. Whether you obviously our hope is that you bring that through proper channels, that you don't just jump to the board member, although if you do, we're going to make sure that it gets pushed back down and addressed again. So however you feel comfortable doing so, now is a good time to bring issues to light.
We will meet with anyone, anywhere. That's we sometimes forget that our parents and children are consumers, and the era of school choice is here, and I will continue to argue from the mountaintop, or I should say the hilltop above the river, that we are the best choice in terms of what we can offer. And I think we have to do a better job telling our story about what makes, our vocational middle school courses and our electives and that robust offering and the behind the scenes supports. That's what makes us different. And so we will meet with anyone. We love when they follow the chain of command, but if they don't feel they're getting anywhere, we can be there to support them.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, is there a motion to close or?
Also moved.
Okay. Todd, you get a second?
Second.
Okay.
Okay, first. I'm
Do
tired.
we have to do roll call? Anybody opposed, say nay.
That works for me.
Okay, great. That follows Robert's rules.
It does follow.
All in favor?
And the chair can make the decision.
Okay.
Aye.
I read something.